Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. It is Monday, January
It's
26th, and
cold
this is
out.
it is
It's
cold out.
it is
And
very cold out.
for most of us, other than Rocco, I think you're in the warmth over there, aren't you?
It's
Or are you somewhere cold
Warmer,
too?
warmer than you guys until Wednesday. Then I'll be in Murray, Kentucky.
Ooh, that's going to be right here in our free zone. I'm your host, Chad
Hmm.
Sherwood. Got John Teitel and David Griggs up here, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, and John Salika down below. This is our Hoops HD report. We're going to be going over everything and anything going on among the major conferences. And uh, I thought today we'd start. Let me go ahead and get the screen share up here if we can get that to work and have some technical difficulties. But I think we'd start today off in the SEC and specifically talking about Alabama. And maybe even before we get to what's happened on the court, uh, obviously the big news around the Tide is Charles Bediako and the fact that he signed a pro contract, got drafted by an NBA team, and is now under a temporary restraining order playing college basketball
Yes.
and not helping the team win games, but at a point now where uh, that restraining order was supposed to go to a final hearing tomorrow. It's been postponed at the NCAA's request because their attorneys were snowed in. So it's been extended for 10 more days. Uh,
His attorney is a genius to foresee this kind of weather.
Yeah. I mean
but
that is some sharp legal representation there. But we'll finish your thought and then call on us, and by that I mean me.
Well, why don't you go for it, Griggs? Because I think that this crossed a line, this restraining order granted by a judge with that's a significant Alabama donor and probably should have conflicted himself out of the case. But go
Yes,
ahead.
that I mean that is a very important note there that it was an Alabama donor or booster or someone that has a rooting interest in Alabama. That's a part of the story. I think the overall shift to completely like very put it very basically and perhaps oversimplify it was 7, 8 years ago, even 5 years ago, this wouldn't have happened. Nobody ever challenged the NCAA on their rules. They had so much power and towered over everything that no one ever even thought to do it, much less did it. Now everyone's doing it, and it seems like every time it's done, they're winning. So there is that shift now that just because the NCAA makes a ruling or makes a decision doesn't mean that it's going to stick. And they're starting to lose their control. Is that bad? Is that good? Maybe it's some of each. Maybe it's neither of each. I don't know. The rule on this was just so everybody knows, this is not necessarily a new rule. It's fairly new, but it's been around for I don't know more than a generation of players. So 6, 7, 8 years, where if a player had played professionally, they could get their amateur status back so long as they could demonstrate that the money they were paid went to necessary expenses. Now, you can get very creative as to what is and isn't a necessary expense. No one really knows exactly where the line is, but if you signed an NBA contract or you've signed a contract in the A League in Australia or one of the premier clubs at Eurobasket where you're making 6, 7 figures, I think you're making more than necessary expenses. So the NCAA always said they would never grant someone eligibility that signed a contract of that caliber. This young man did. They ruled him ineligible. He took it to court, and the judge granted the restraining order, and that's where we are.
Yeah,
Uh,
let me throw one other thing in here about this restraining order. I've heard a lot of people out there saying, well, if the final restraints are not granted or if it gets overthrown, all these games that he played will not count. Uh, Tytel, let me throw it over to you for your thoughts on this also. But to quickly note, the temporary restraining order itself says that the NCAA cannot take adverse action against him or the team because of his playing. So it's already been dealt with in the order. So I think that even if he is ruled permanently out, I don't think these games get disqualified. But your thoughts on everything?
As far as that specific point, I agree with you. It seems unfair to penalize a team if a judge has already decreed something, albeit a judge who might have a very has a very vested rooting interest in the team. To give you a background on Bediako, he was not a good but a great player coming up. He was a Jordan Brand Classic All-American back in 2021 with several now NBA stars like Paulo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr. and then he goes to Alabama and plays well. He was SEC All Freshman Team 2022, went pro in 2023, and then 3 years later he's back on campus. And I don't like it either, but like if a judge says it's okay and the NCAA can't do anything about it, then I don't think the Tide should get penalized because they're taking advantage of a situation that, as far as I can tell, everybody else is allowed to take advantage of. So I don't know that they have any sort of like special advantage. And the thing is, for me as a bracketologist, the interesting part is that he's like a key piece now. He had double digits the other day in the loss to Tennessee. So it's not like he's just some 10th man off the bench. He's a like contributing factor, which is why I think it gets treated for bracketology purposes. All their previous losses have an asterisk now because they were not at full strength, quote unquote, now that they have him, which some think is ridiculous because they're like, why are you rewarding a team for signing a pro guy? And now they get to like use that argument in the committee room. But I think that's exactly how it's going to work. We'll see.
Yeah, Rocco, let me ask you that exact point here because if you say, well, let's penalize Alabama, or I've seen people say, well, let's penalize Alabama because they're playing a pro player, aren't you actually penalizing higher seeds who are going to have to play them earlier in the tournament? Shouldn't you go ahead and give them a high seed now?
I don't know. I don't think that has to be decided until about 7 weeks from now.
Good point.
And I would like. I mean, I'm more focused right now on the teams that have gone to this length. First of all, have had a need to fill, and a serious need to the point where they go to these lengths to find these players. And we've noticed that with Baylor completely falling apart since the acquisition of Najee. They just got swept by TCU. We'll talk about the Big 12 soon. But even in Santa Clara's case, with Cherry Darlan, he's not even really a starter. There's some games where he's really hits a wall. These guys are still in developmental. So from a basketball advantage perspective, you could argue that they're actually worse so far than they were before. So I think the jury's out on that part of it. But I think this specific Bediako case is much different than the previous because of the fact that he's the first guy that actually played college basketball for 2 years and now is coming back to college basketball 3 years later. What it's doing is blurring the lines between the NCAA and the NBA more so because Bediako, after 2 years at Alabama, had declared per the NCAA and NBA's agreed upon rules, the early entry draft deadline, which we talk about every year on our June episode together, he had already basically with the way the NCAA rules are written, when you forego the rest of your eligibility, that's it. You can't come back. So if Bediako comes back successfully, we now have for the immediate future blurred lines between the NBA and the NCAA. One of the great examples I heard as part of this research and what this case could potentially mean is like take a Brandon Podziemski for Santa Clara a couple of years ago, bursts onto the scenes. Well, there would be nothing stopping a team like the Golden State Warriors from just signing him in January in the middle of college basketball season if the NBA thought he was ready to make the jump now. They wouldn't need to wait for the draft anymore. The early entry deadline period would not be a thing anymore. So this Bediako situation has far-reaching consequences that I don't think a lot of the public understands yet.
That is a really, really good point, Rocco, because he is eligible for the NBA now. I don't know if that's
Well,
going to
he
happen.
forego his eligibility. That's the main part. He already
Yeah,
gave it up, and now he's trying to get it back, but it's never been done before.
He could
right.
go play for the Warriors could call him up tomorrow or whatever
They
team has the
could.
draft rights.
They absolutely could, and he could go
Right.
play for them. Whereas he would not be eligible. I don't know the verb. I know so little about the NBA. I don't even know the verbiage that they use. But I'll use the term eligible. He is eligible to play in the NBA, whereas no one else in college currently is. They can't. It's an agreement
Right.
that both leagues have. But this
Yeah.
guy's sort of outside the box now. My question for Chad and John, who have a better understanding of the law than I do. I know how to break the law, but I don't know the. But my thing is, yes, was this just a rogue action by a judge that likes Alabama a little too much? But I can't imagine, even if they're an Alabama fan, that there wouldn't have been some legal justification for the ruling.
I'll tell you, my opinion is I I think it's just a bad ruling. I really that
Okay.
at the end of the day, I really hope that when they do have this next hearing, sometime in the next 10 days, this when it gets rescheduled, that this gets overturned. But if it doesn't, uh, yeah, I mean, an appellate process will probably take till after the end of the season to get resolved.
And
Yeah.
is there a legal? I know that it's inconvenient for the sport. I understand all of that. It makes things very messy. But is there a legal reason? Is this a violation of antitrust law telling this young man that or this adult that he cannot play and that the school cannot hire him? Is that an overreach on the
I mean,
NCAA's part in a
Uh,
legal manner?
I think the judge kind of said that it was no different than the other guys that have been ruled eligible already, and I think there was a line here that
This one,
the
in
judge
fact, was
ignored.
very different.
Yeah, yeah, but
yeah.
the judge's opinion was it was the
Okay.
same. That's this. I think it was a bad decision by the judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And it's
I think everybody hopes you're right. I think there's many people in the NBA that hope you're right too, Chad,
Mhm.
because it's going to fundamentally change a lot of the, you know, every GM's job would change if this becomes permanent, and even all the college GMs now, like their job would be a little different too, and how you basically lose all control of your roster if the early entry deadline is not enforceable, because every NIL agent is going to start pushing the envelope with that in hand from now forward. The other thing is like that's already been a big concern for colleges. Like if you look at JT Toppin, the star for Texas Tech, part of his payment this year for NIL. He's getting somewhere between 3.5, 4 million. They paid him extra to not even go to NBA draft workouts, so that way he wouldn't be as tempted to maybe enter early. So there's so much that's already configured in how they're paid now, that I just think it tears a lot of the system that's holding on by however much it's holding on by. It would tear it apart at the seams in a lot of ways. And I think the reason why they're challenging it is because the NCAA has been so lenient with these G League guys coming over, but they didn't go through the NBA draft process.
They didn't.
None of them had signed an Exhibit 10 or a two-way contract, which Bediako has. And they're basically trying to exploit this 5 year clock because by the 5 year clock, Bediako has one semester left. But obviously, it's so unprecedented due to those circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that this is the one that finally the NBA is going the NCAA is going to fight, and they're going to fight it all the way.
Yeah, and
Finally,
you've seen them come out. They've been
finally they're
coming
willing to
out.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they've been coming out with some bold statements, and it's been kind of chaotic.
I wish they
Yeah.
would have fought 10 cases ago. It's supposed to wait until now, but
Well,
they're
I
finally
don't know.
fighting.
Yeah, I don't know how winnable that was. And up until 5 or 6 years ago, they never had to fight. They were the law for all intents and purposes
Correct.
in college
Mhm.
athletics. I do want to, I know we need to get between the
Yeah,
lines. We're still
let's
outside the
move
lines.
here.
I did want to make one more point about the G League rule. That was never not in play. It's just that it was never done with a G League player. But what I said earlier about a way to get your eligibility back, that was always on the table.
Well, let's move on here because
Yeah.
we do need to
Yeah.
get into the actual games. And Sleek, let me bring you in here. On the court, Alabama lost the home game with
For all that.
Bediako to Tennessee. And how about the
Oh,
Tennessee? How about Tennessee now suddenly making a rebound on their season and coming off of that win?
This filled a hole that was in Tennessee's resume. They now have a road win just of any significance, and it also helps that it comes against a possible protected seed right here in the Tide. However, Alabama also been pretty generous at home with their home loss against Texas earlier in the month, so that's why the Longhorns, after just completely meandering the first 2 months of the year, or at least suddenly have a puncher's chance of making the field.
Yeah. Aside from that Tennessee win, a couple other wins of note here. Well, let's kind of go down the line here. Titel, Arkansas, real nice week. I know there were two home wins, but what they did to Vanderbilt last week was impressive.
It was, and they needed it. A bounce back week for Coach Calipari. They had the double-digit loss at Georgia a week ago, and then the 25-pointer over Vandy, and a nice comeback win over LSU. In terms of the upcoming schedule, winnable game at Oklahoma Tuesday, and then Kentucky comes to town on Saturday for the huge game. And their key has been offense. They shoot 39% behind the arc. They score 90 points a game, Both of those stats top 15 in the nation. And in this year of fantastic freshman, Darius Acuff is looking like the best point guard in the whole group. 20 points, 6 assists a game. Scary part, he's getting better. Career high 13 assists against South Carolina 4 games ago. Career high 4 steals against Georgia 3 games ago. And career high 31 points against LSU in the last game. Last year, the Razorbacks started 0-5 in conference play. They turned it around and made the Sweet 16. Now that they're 5-2 in conference play, I wonder how far they're going to go in March.
Great point there.
Yeah.
Another team, Rocco, with a good bounce back week was that Kentucky team he just mentioned. Pair of wins here, and suddenly they're on a 5-game winning streak out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it's funny because almost all those wins have not exactly been convincing. That Mississippi game, I watched it all morning here in the West Coast time zone. It was a rock fight all morning long, and Ole Miss got them to play the kind of game Chris Beard wanted. They just couldn't make any baskets. They shot 31.8% from two, 33% from three. If Ole Miss just gets a few shots to fall, I think they were ripe for the upset. But give Kentucky credit. Otega Owe hit a bunch of free throws down the stretch to make it look like a more convincing win than it actually was. And Kentucky's just squeezing by. It's been interesting, but obviously still not playing 100%. Lowe's out for the season, so I guess we can give up on that dream. But Aberdeen's done a nice job filling in there. On top of Kentucky, I would say Auburn had a huge week
That was
with
the other team I was going to go to, so go for it.
okay, sorry, I don't want to
Huge
steal.
week.
Nope, go
I don't
for
want to
it.
steal Griggs' thunder or anybody else's. But yeah, for them to go into the swamp, I think that was highly
My
unexpected.
thunder is unstealable.
Mhm.
Auburn starts the game down 19-2, and or I guess it was a 19-2 run that they gave up. But I mean, suddenly they just came back and came back and came back. No, I apologize. That was Auburn who started up 19-2. I had that flipped. But yeah, and I think one of the stories behind the scenes here was a lot of people forget Todd Golden worked for Bruce Pearl for a year as a grad assistant, as did Stephen Pearl. So they were both grad assistants there together. Stephen Pearl, very familiar with a lot of what Todd Golden runs there at Florida. Auburn came in with a great game plan, and it was a great environment too. That was a hot ticket down there in Gainesville. Kudos to the Tigers for really upgrading the resume. They were basically a bubble, almost bubble out team a week ago. Now they're solidly in and wearing white.
Griggs, the other team we got to quickly mention here. How about Bucky Ball in sole
Oh,
possession of first place?
yes. And on a winning streak, but 16-4 overall. They did stumble a little bit out of the gate in November, but they are certainly up and going and hitting full stride now. And while they haven't played so I think some of their tougher games are ahead of them at Alabama, at Vanderbilt, at Arkansas. One of the questions we had was, would that style of play work with this caliber of athlete in the SEC that they're playing against? It's a little different than the SoCon, and I think the answer is yes. It is sort of a unique style of play. While it's set plays, it's also really reactionary. It does take some time to get used to. I think that what we were seeing in November when they were stumbling a little bit was a bit of a transition to a new style. Uh, they are phenomenally fun to watch. They are really competitive. They play hard, and not bad for a high school coach from Birmingham.
True
Good
story.
point.
Yeah.
Upcoming this week, a lot of good games here. Some of these may be moving because of weather. I think already that Tennessee Georgia got pushed back from Tuesday to Wednesday, but we do have Kentucky Vanderbilt, uh,
That's also in the ice belt.
Kentucky and Arkansas coming up here, Auburn and Tennessee on Saturday. A little Red River rivalry here, Texas Oklahoma on Saturday also. Coming up Sunday, Alabama at Florida.
That should be a good one.
But let's jump over to the Big 12.
That's interesting because we usually don't see Sunday games in the SEC for the men. It's almost always the women's showcase that day.
Yeah. Oh, you're
And
right.
uh, over the Big 12, and Stalika, let me start with you, and maybe we'll just start at the top here. Arizona, as we record this, they're playing BYU, but they took care of business this week, Cincinnati and West Virginia.
We thought Cincinnati might give the Wildcats a game, given how close the Bearcats had kept their first 6 games in conference play, but alas, that was not meant to be. As Arizona, they got out to I think a 10 or 11 point lead at halftime, and then just stepped into another gear and just throttled both the Bearcats and West Virginia.
Yeah, and beyond Arizona, Arizona, as I mentioned, right now as we record this, is playing BYU. Maybe you get a score update here on the screen. But Tytel, you wanted to talk a little bit about BYU.
I don't want to, but I have to. Kevin Young
Okay.
last year in his first year as coach, 26 wins, the most ever by a first-year coach in school history. No sophomore slump in sight. They did have a double-digit loss at Texas Tech a week ago, but bounced back with a double-digit win over Utah in the unholy war last Saturday. And it was a
Yeah.
tale of two games for Super Fresh AJ DeBonsa. Only 13 points against the Red Raiders, but a school record 43 for a freshman against the Utes. But it's much more than a one-man team because they're top 25 in the nation in both offense and defense. Huge week ahead, hosting my Wildcats as we speak, then head to Kansas on Saturday. And to give you an idea of just how historic a season they're having, the last time they had a winning percentage this high in a season of at least 10 games was back in 06. Not 2006, but 1906, when they went 11-1 under Coach Clayton Tietzel. I have some top genealogists looking into whether I might be related to him.
There we
And I
go.
think you also forgot to mention that freshman record he broke. Some guy named Danny Ainge used to hold that back in the late 70s.
Uh, Rocco, the game of the week though in this conference was Texas Tech's amazing win over Houston. Incredible game.
Another
I
one.
was just on a
Yeah.
Texas Tech podcast about an hour ago with
Mm.
shout out to our good friend Ryan Hyatt over there with Texas Tech. But uh, how about these Red Raiders now?
How about them? I mean, they overcame a 42-point effort from Kingston Flemings, one of three freshmen to go for 40 plus on the same day. Amazing. Toppin and Anderson, hard to top that duo. Obviously, elite on both fronts. Played every single minute of the game. Toppin goes for 31 points, 12 boards. Anderson dishes out 9 assists, makes almost all of his free throws despite struggling from the outside. And I think the big story at Texas Tech is who else was going to rise to the occasion this season. Jalen Petty's been an amazing freshman from my hometown of Seattle. Would have been playing for Richard Pitino at New Mexico had Pitino not gone and hung out with John Stolica. And now Petty is a Texas Tech Red Raider and playing way better than I could have ever guessed. He was a good recruit, but we thought maybe a year or two in college. He's playing awesome. He had 18 points against Houston. That's a big deal for him. Lawan Watts didn't have his best game, but he's had some big games for Texas Tech. Of course, transferred from Washington State. So I like this Texas Tech team. The big man, Luke Bongoy, he has not been healthy. He's missed a lot of key games. When and if healthy, that gives him an awesome extra rim protector like Federico last year. But even without him, they're finding ways to win. And I thought that win brought them up to the 3 seed line for my bracket today.
Only the 3 seed line. Well,
Correct.
Yeah, I think only the three seed line is correct actually. But
Thanks,
Griggs,
Chad.
well, they're still my pick to win it all. My preseason
okay.
pick to win it all. That's got to be worth at least 1 seed line. The
Gr-
Grid's
Gr-
preseason pick.
Griggs,
That
I'll make the point with you to you that I made an hour ago. And this is David Griggs' point. Texas Tech has a huge hole in their resume still. They don't have a true road win against a tournament caliber team.
They don't. Duke on a neutral floor was very impressive. They got one coming up against UCF that is winnable. They battled at
Mhm.
Houston but didn't get it done. I mean, obviously, I think even though a losing effort at Houston showed they can go on the road, a true road game in a hostile environment and hold their own with just about anyone. Even though they didn't win the game, they certainly held their own. But you are right. That's why they're probably on a 3 seed line, and without the David Griggs preseason pick, they'd be on the 3 line.
That neutral game was at Madison Square Garden. That's basically Cameron North, so I could give a
Yeah,
waiver for Tech winning
right.
a
But
somewhat
Tex
road game.
No, they are, but they do, and they have monster. If you go back, they got to go to BYU, to Arizona, and to Iowa State between now and the end of the year.
Yes.
So if they get one of those, they'll fill that hole.
UCF too. UCF could be
And
the
UCF this weekend. Yep.
I
yeah.
think they get that one.
Okay.
UCF, while
That's not a
good,
guarantee, though.
yeah, Yeah.
Let's talk one other team real quick. Stalika, the Kansas Jayhawks. I was just pulling them up here. Hottest team in the conference, maybe. Now with the four straight wins and uh, just starting to look really good, I think.
It's also hard to believe that this was the first time in 4 years they actually won at the Octagon. This was one that was kind of going back and forth until the early part of the second half, and then, much like Arizona, just kicked into third gear. I think Kansas kicked into fifth gear against K-State and ended up running away with that one by 24 points. And this was only about 4 days after they visited their old friends at Colorado at altitude and got a road win. So KU starting to look like a protected seed, and now they get a week off to get ready for BYU at the Fog on Saturday.
Not only BYU, look at four of their next five games are
Oh
against
my.
four of the best teams, probably best 15, maybe best 12 teams in the nation. This is a tough stretch that we're going to find out a lot about this Jayhawks team here the next couple of weeks. Uh,
I'm gonna
quick
say
look
if they
at
sweep that set, they can vault real high real
Oh God, if
quickly.
they sweep that, yeah.
let's see here. Oh, there it comes. I was just trying to get this week's schedule up here. Uh, Houston's got the road test at TCU coming up, and one of Tytel's
That's
favorite games
also
on
a possible trap game at TCU because the Horned Frogs starting to get closer to the field again.
I think you're right, Stalika. I just don't think I think Houston is there isn't a sense of brain injury to them at all. They're not brain dead at all. They're not going to overlook TCU. They
uh,
don't overlook anyone.
one of Tytel's favorite games of the year, Arizona at Arizona State on Saturday. And
Dad, can you imagine if we go into that game undefeated and lose? What kind of a court storm is? Oh my god! Like I almost want to lose tonight to avoid such a scenario.
okay, Texas Tech at UCF. We just mentioned BYU at Kansas on Saturday, and coming up Monday, Kansas at Texas Tech. Some huge games coming up. We mentioned for the Jayhawks. Over in the Big Ten Conference, though.
Yes, Big Ten.
Okay, Griggs, you're excited about the Big Ten.
Yes.
All right. Are you excited about the undefeated Nebraska Cornhuskers beat
Oh,
Washington, win at Minnesota? They struggled for about the first 25 minutes of that game and then just turned it on.
yeah. Minnesota made a crucial error in that game against Nebraska, and that's that they competed, and that made Nebraska really mad. So they just really ran away from them in the second half. But I mean, they continue to beat everybody in front of them. I think some of their tougher games are still ahead of them. Certainly the one that was postponed tonight. I think that game against Michigan. Or wait,
That's not just tomorrow.
that's not till tomorrow. Okay, I don't know what
Is
day
it
it is.
postponed? I
It
don't.
is not. I don't know.
I've still got it on my schedule, but
It is, yeah, I just forgot what day it was for a second. So they still got to go to Michigan, to Iowa's going to be rough, and then the Los Angeles trip. But I mean, look at where this is a one seed caliber resume when you see the wins at Illinois, 8-0 away from home, 5-0 in true road games. They've won every game they've played. The only thing that sort of distracts, and it isn't something to overlook when you're talking about awarding a one seed, is the non-conference strength of schedule. That's lower than what you typically, that's way lower than what you typically see of a team on the one line. But nevertheless, look at the job Coach Tim Miles is doing. It's just phenomenal.
Rocco, how about the Illini? 9 wins in a row now. Red hot team.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, the week started last week with the news that Kylan Boswell is going to be out at least a month,
Mhm.
and panic a little bit set in across Champaign, from what I understand. And obviously, playing Maryland, not much of a test. We didn't learn much in that result, despite the dominant win. But going to Purdue, Keaton Wagler, of course, the big story. Another 40 plus point freshman scorer on the day, 9 3-pointers, goes for 46 points. Unbelievable, really. But I think the bigger story is Illinois across the board. It's a very imposing front line. Whether it's Big Z coming off the bench, Tomislav Ivizic, his bro, starting. That's two 7-1 plus guys right there in the middle. They can play together. David Merkovich has been really good as a big. Same with Ben Henry Churis, who's obviously more of a perimeter player. But this is a gigantic team. Actually, with the injury to Boswell, the majority of the minutes went. The shortest player on the team was Wagler on Saturday at 6'6". So this is a matchup nightmare team. They're number one in America in adjusted offense. They're number four in America at offensive rebounding, and they're number four in America at free throw shooting. It's a deadly combination. Even the best defenses in the country might not be able to slow these guys down. And their resume is really starting to pick up to what their ceiling is, which is a national championship.
Yeah, I'll tell you that the historically, one of the things I look at when I build my brackets is who's the best team with the best adjusted offense, because that has historically played out to equate to a champion. And as you said,
Illinois.
right now we got to start with the Illini.
It's interesting.
Titel, Wisconsin Badgers. They had a little bit of a mixed results this week.
So let's take a step back. Last year, they scored 80 points a game, the school's best in 54 years. Somehow, Coach Greg Gard has taken it up a notch this year, 84 points a game. And they began this month, of course, with a double-digit home loss to Purdue. They look great since then, 5-game winning streak, the signature win at Michigan a couple weeks ago, and then it all fell apart on Sunday with the home loss to USC. They blew a 12-point lead with 12 minutes left. The good news, they still have a winnable home game against Minnesota on Wednesday, and then a bubblicious game against the Buckeyes on Saturday. And even though they couldn't beat the Trojans, they should be able to win those close games because they're top 25 in the nation, 77% at their free throw line, and one of the best backcourt duos in the country, Nick Boyd and John Blackwell, 38 points a game, 8 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals combined.
I think on a side note for USC, with a game time temperature of 2 degrees, that has to be the coldest temperature the Trojans have ever won a game at. You would have never seen that in the Pac-12.
Yes,
Even at
Salika,
Wazoo.
Salika, it was a mixed week for
Wazoo.
USC also. The road lost to Northwestern, but then they get that win at Wisconsin.
It's an interesting trade-off for a team that's
Almost
that we also
Northwestern.
had right around the cut line, but I think they would gladly take the trade-off of at least getting a road win against the possible NCAA tournament team. But of course, the other side of the coin is now you're losing yet another home game against a team that's not sniffing the field.
Yeah, I think those are the majority of the big stories from this past week. We could talk about what Michigan State did to Maryland, which was probably illegal in some states,
Not in
Yeah.
Michigan.
but 91 to 48.
Lots
But
of things are legal in the state of Michigan this year.
Yeah. Wow.
the game of the season so far in the Big Ten is probably Tuesday night. Nebraska's game at Michigan. Circle this one here tomorrow night. USC at Iowa coming up on Wednesday is a big one. Michigan State on Friday. Where else we going? Illinois, Nebraska on Sunday. Huge week for Nebraska, actually.
Yeah.
But I will be watching with the Sickos committee the Penn State Northwestern game on Thursday.
On purpose.
Not by choice, but yes.
Keep an eye on Purdue, Indiana tomorrow night as well. I mean, it's a road test for Purdue against their number one rival.
Yeah.
Always dangerous.
I mean, it's certainly a game they can win, but it should be an electric atmosphere.
Griggs, over in the ACC, just before we started tonight, Duke kicked the you know what out of Louisville.
Duke
It's a family program, people.
Yes. Well, yesterday during our bracket rundown, Duke unanimously number 2 behind Arizona, who is unanimously number 1. And tonight they showed why. I know that they were at home. I know Louisville's not the best road team. That's sort of like saying I'm not the most sober guy in the room. But that was a mauling. I mean, they played against Louisville, who's probably in the top half of the bracket, and beat them as if it were a home bye game. I mean, they just destroyed them.
I think the stat of the night here is that they had during the game under John Shire, Duke is now 52-0 at Cameron Indoor when they have a lead at halftime.
A couple teams that had really big weeks this week. Let's start with NC State, Titel. A pair of road wins, always impressive.
Yes. Another one I want to get us started by looking back. So they had the 1-point overtime loss to Kansas in mid-December. Will Wade comes in. He's gone 7-2 since then with losses to Virginia and Georgia Tech. Finally got his signature win by beating Clemson on the road in overtime last Tuesday after almost blowing a double-digit lead in the first half. Two winnable games this week. They host Syracuse on Tuesday and the road trip to Wake on Saturday. Their key three-point shooting, number 10 in the nation, 39% behind the arc. And he built his roster on transfers from power conferences. The starting lineup has Darion Williams from Texas Tech, Quadir Copeland from Syracuse through McNeese, and Ben Allen Lubin from North Carolina, and Trey Holloman from Michigan State. The biggest surprise, the other starter, returning sophomore Paul McNeil. Only averaged 4 points a game off the bench last year, exploded for 47 last month in a win over Texas Southern, and has made at least 2 shots from behind the arc in each of his past 9 games.
Rocco, let's get a little Bay Area love here for you. I know that over at the Field of 68 they gave a little not any love to the Bay Area,
Yeah.
but how about the Cal Bears, who are suddenly significantly on the radar? I know it's a shorthanded Stanford team, but it was a nice road win.
Nice road win, and they had some confidence coming in. A whole week to prepare. These two schools go through the ringer in terms of travel, so it's nice to see them get a week of just one game and not really leaving the area at all. That's going to change this week. But John Camden had a great game, 25 points, 10 boards. Justin Pippen played well. Day Ames did his thing. And Cal's got a good roster that can shoot. It's just, can they put together a whole 40 minutes? That's where they started slipping against Duke. They actually had an early lead against Duke that game I was at. So I have high hope for Cal, but I mean, this program's been in the basement for a decade, Chad. And the fact that they're even being discussed in late January is already a win. Just hoping the train can keep going. On Stanford's end, obviously, still trying to figure out life without Akpara. Could be a long-term problem. I'm hopeful for them that it's not. Obviously, Ibuka Okore is still very special, but he goes 1 for 16 in this game. Unbelievable. He's had so many unbelievable performances. He still got 14 points because he made 12 free throws. But that was a killer. Most nights they're not going to shoot that bad. We did see one night where they did when they only scored 40 points against Notre Dame. And now Stanford's just got a really bipolar resume in terms of 4 home losses and 4 tournament level wins. Right now, I think the committee would treat them much like the committee treated West Virginia last year, where they basically just started judging them without their star player. I don't know if that's going to be fair for Stanford, but the good news is the ACC is so much deeper, as we've been discussing all season, and there's plenty of opportunities still ahead, including a big one at Miami in the middle of this week.
Yeah, and interesting, they've got 3 more of these long trips, but it's
Yep.
Miami, Florida State one, BC Wake, and Notre Dame, NC State. You know that there's chances
Yeah.
here for road wins.
I
Um,
think the BC Wake one, they will actually stay there for the ACC tournament, so that will be like a 2 week trip.
Yeah.
uh,
And I mean, when you're not an academic school, you can get away with things like that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
uh, Griggs, another team that had a real nice week was the North Carolina Tar Heels. How about that win at Virginia?
To me, it completely changed the complexion of their whole resume. And they had the win at Kentucky. It came at a time when Kentucky wasn't playing at the level that they're playing at now. It looks good on paper, but it still wasn't a statement that this is a good team. But this was a Virginia team that was rolling, that looked as good as anybody in the ACC, perhaps, that wasn't other than Duke. And for them to go there and beat a protected seed on the road, a likely protected seed. I still think Virginia is going to end up there. I mean, to me, that's a multi-seed line raising win. That's just a season defining win. It's clearly to me more impressive than anything else they've done, and it's not even close.
I agree with you. I hate agreeing with you, but I do agree with you. I think one more team we need to quickly mention is Miami, just because Salico, they tried to shoot themselves in the foot last Tuesday night. They did bounce back with the win at Syracuse, at least.
I think in Joby's book, that might have been the death knell right there as far as potentially keeping him out of the field because the Canes don't really have a win against a tournament team yet. And when you lose to a team like Florida State that's not
At
going to be
home.
sniffing, yes,
Good
not
Lord.
sniffing any postseason, that's going to smell real bad for the Canes right there. Now,
I'll
they
tell
will
you,
get a chance to right the ship a little bit at home with Stanford and Cal coming in, but that is not a good look for
I'll
Miami.
tell you, they do have those 4 road wins in tiers 1 and 2, though. So they may not need road wins. They may just need a couple of these home wins against teams like Stanford and Va Tech that are coming up to get
Well,
there.
congratulations. You've beaten four NIT teams on the
Yeah.
road, which is something Griggs would say in his
Mm.
daily write-ups you're supposed to be doing anyway if you want to make the big boy dance.
Upcoming this week, we've got that Stanford and Cal both going to Miami that we mentioned earlier. Duke at Va Tech on Saturday is a big one. SMU at Louisville on Saturday as well. Did I miss anything of note here? I don't think
Uh,
so.
not really.
I think Duke at Va Tech is the one to circle on Saturday. But let's jump over to the Big
Yeah.
East real quick, where uh, Rocco, I guess the story is continues to be UConn. Villanova gave them everything on Saturday,
Yeah.
Oh
and they
man,
still
what a
found a way to
showing.
win.
What an effort though. Wow. Anyway, go ahead, Rocco.
Yeah, it was a hell of a game. It really was. Villanova's a lot more talented than I think a lot of people nationally give them credit for. This is a really talented team. I mean, Caden Lewis is a blue chip freshman. Duke Brennan is a perfect old veteran. I think this is his sixth college basketball season. He's won a ton of basketball games. Bryce Lindsey's an elite shooter that I got to see at JMU last year a couple of times. Perkins and Hodge can really play. Devin Askew's got talent. So I just think like Villanova in general has a much higher ceiling than I think they're getting credit for. Unfortunately, they didn't get the big win that probably would have changed a lot in terms of their forecast. But highly competitive. And UConn in general has just not been dominant lately. Squeaking out a 2-point win at Georgetown the week before, a narrow one with Seton Hall. No shame there, just really close. They almost lost to Providence earlier this month. So UConn still got a lot to figure out. Obviously, a lot of high expectations there for good reason. A really good non-conference resume. That Illinois win is aging like fine wine, and so is the Florida and Kansas wins and BYU
And
win.
BYU.
Yeah, and so but it's all about what you have you done for me lately, and right now UConn just barely scraping by.
Yep. Uh, Titel, on the other side of the conference, Seton Hall is a
Ooh.
team that could be imploding now. Lost to St. John's, okay. They go to DePaul and lose though over the weekend, and that was ouch.
It is. I don't think that I can. I'm amazed that it's tier two, first of all, but like you can't uh, wipe that away. I mean, it's gonna ruin their resume if they're close, which it's not. I think it's gonna be close all year. They do have a couple winnable games coming up to finish off January, and then tough road stretch in February at Villanova, at Creighton, at UConn. So they better win these two. That'll get them to 16-6. And then if they lose all their road games, they're going to miss the tournament, but we'll see.
I
The
think
team,
it's equally amazing. That's the fourth straight home win for DePaul, which if they've done it, it would have been very early in their Big East history under Jerry Wainwright.
Yeah, is DePaul a story? I know they're nowhere near the bubble and they're not going to be, but I mean, they are very much improved under Chris Holtman, under conditions that I didn't think DePaul would ever be able to be competitive in. They're not the doormat. And does this program have a future of success? Just the fact that I'm even pondering that is amazing.
I do believe they got a $20 million funding approved today, so maybe that has to do with the winning streak. But yeah, we'll see for a practice facility.
Yeah.
And that was a big story here this afternoon. But yeah, we'll see. They're clearly getting better as the year goes on, and that is couldn't be more opposite of the true any time in the last 20 years. I feel
Yeah.
like every year they get worse as the year goes on.
Yeah.
uh, unfortunately, this might also be an indictment of this year's Big East, but
It,
little
it, it
bit.
is to a degree, but I mean, this is a DePaul team that if they played in the Horizon League in a typical year, they'd finish maybe in the middle of it. I mean, they are astonishingly bad as a program prior to this year, and is it finally turning around? Like you think
here's
that like even accidentally you think they'd be good just on occasion, but they never are.
here's the upcoming schedule. The game, obviously, UConn has a couple of games here, home against Providence at Creighton. Maybe the game to watch is Butler at St. John's. Butler with a win there could seriously put themselves on the map here, I
Yeah,
believe. And
Thad Matta
the
doing a
Johnnies have been red hot lately too.
They have been. Thad Matta having a great year at Butler. I don't know if they get all the way inside the bubble, but a great year for Butler.
I think you
Uh,
also better watch Xavier Seton Hall on Wednesday. The Musketeers had two hard luck losses this week where
Very,
they
very hard
they
luck.
lose in the closing seconds at Creighton on a missed free throw and a high
Jeez.
bank shot by the Blue Jays, and then the Musketeers blow a 16-point lead at home against St. John's en route to Rick Pitino's 900th win. If the Musketeers are able to rebound and win at Seton Hall, then the Pirates are definitely they're definitely on the wrong side of the cut line at that point.
Mountain West Conference, uh, Titel, San Diego State now in sole possession of first place.
Woo-hoo.
And they actually suffered a loss this week.
Yes, but when you're losing at the Lopes by a single point, I don't think it's anything to panic about. Certainly have a tough week ahead, host Colorado State, and then the big trip to Utah State could be the Mountain West game of the year, and could decide the Mountain West, or at least the one seed in the tournament. Their defense is still great, as always. I was very concerned about them early on because they weren't winning a lot of games. When you go back and look, losing to Michigan and Arizona and Baylor away from home is nothing too bad. And then they lost to Troy in overtime because everybody loses to Troy in overtime. So I think that panic mode is done. And I don't know if they're going to sweep this week's trip, but they have a lot of winnable games going down the stretch.
Well, let me make a correction. Everyone plays Troy in overtime. Whether they
Yeah.
win or lose is a 50-50 proposition.
I don't
Well,
even turn the games on until it's overtime anymore because I
double,
just,
maybe
yeah,
double overtime there.
right.
Rocco, Utah State, any cause for concern with that home loss to UNLV this past week?
A little bit. I mean, it was a good bounce back win at Colorado State. I thought I mean, they were in trouble in that game. They were down double digits at halftime. It could have been an 0-2 week. It could have been a 3-game losing streak. But really good maturity from this group. MJ Collins, 20 points in the game at the end of it. Carson Templin, of course, has been there. Seems like forever. I don't know how he's only a junior. And Falslip hasn't been playing his best. And I think they need him to get back to that level he was the first couple months to get back. And I mean, in their minds, they're the league favorites. So right now, you could argue that both New Mexico and Grand Canyon are playing better than Utah State.
Yes, you could argue that. I'm glad you said that. Grand Canyon, it took them a little while to get going, and you can't just write off what they did back in November. When you look at some of those losses that they had early, losing to Youngstown, losing particularly to Youngstown. Nothing else is that bad, but this team is really good right now. Are they the best? You could make that argument, and I think I will. They're playing as well as anybody in the conference, maybe better than anyone in the conference.
Well,
Yeah,
they've still got the road trips to San Diego State and Utah State ahead of them.
Yeah,
So
they do. Yeah.
I think the only result they'd like to have back would be that 10-point home loss to Colorado State.
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
up
they
this week,
certainly have their warts, but my God, like since the new year, whew,
Big
coming up
good.
this week here, we've got the huge San Diego State Utah State game. Also, Colorado State Wyoming. Talk about rivalries. There we go.
Border
Border
war.
War,
the border war, the other one.
The other
the
border.
real one.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on this Boise State Grand Canyon game on Friday night as well. That could be a good one too.
Yeah. Grand Canyon at Nevada. That's going to be
Yeah,
a road
that's
test, but I
tricky.
think they're up for it.
Tricky game.
Let's see here. Salika over in the West Coast Conference. The Zags, well, they got 2 wins, but wow, the Dons gave them a game on Saturday.
Well, as we touched on last night during the bracket rundown, it's not the first time that Gonzaga has been playing with matches at home. Seattle, they were up double digits, but were unable to hold on that lead at the Kennel. And San Francisco, while I don't think they ever got the lead against Gonzaga, they at least had a chance to get a game-winning three-pointer, but ultimately missed. And the Dons missed a golden opportunity to get a little bit closer in the conference standings at least because San Francisco not going to be an NCAA at-large team, but that would have been a nice feather in their cap to get the road win at the Zags.
Yeah, so we've got the
Last trip
Zags,
ever there.
we got St. Mary's. Rocco, how about a little more Bay Area love though? Santa Clara. got a nice road win at San Diego.
Yeah, I mean they're playing elimination games and games like that for the bubble purposes. So it's a lot of pressure on Santa Clara because yes, they have the big St. Mary's win, but it was at home. I do think they're going to have to hold serve in all those other types of matchups. That includes Wednesday's big one with local rival USF, which is never an easy game. There's sometimes ejections. It should be fun. But yeah, then they got to stay focused, and that's been Santa Clara's problem historically under Sendek. Is there's another slip up usually waiting around the corner, and there's lots of opportunities to slip up. One of the teams they're going to play next week, Chad, is probably the best story in the West Coast Conference right now, and that's the Pacific Tigers.
How about them Tigers? Wow.
How about them Tigers? Had a huge lead over Seattle at halftime, held on for dear life in a bloody 56-54 win. But that's a big win for Dave Smart and everything he's trying to achieve at Pacific. One of the things that just jumps off the page is they are now sixth in the nation in defensive rebounding, top 40 offensive rebounding. If they could just take care of the ball a little bit, they could actually be very dangerous. And they're getting better they're basically the DePaul of the West Coast Conference right now.
I thought that was San Diego.
A horrible coach at San Diego.
Yeah.
We mentioned that San Francisco Santa Clara game coming up on Wednesday night here. But the big one, Titel Saturday, St. Mary's at Gonzaga, round one.
Huge on any night because these are the two teams that are the class of the conference. But Rocco, I assume if Huff, who is out, and Ike, who should be out, I might favor St. Mary's on the road at Gonzaga for the first time ever.
It's still tough. I mean, the guards are still really good, and the environment's still really tough. But yeah, it's a real opportunity for the Gales. I would agree.
With conference realignment, are they both in the Pac-12 next year or just the Zags?
No, the St.
St.
Mary's is
Mary's
staying here.
Okay,
staying
are they
for
going
now. The invite could be coming, but
Okay, are they going to continue?
speculation.
Are they going
Yeah,
to continue this series, or is it going to be one of those, oh well, you're too annoying and we're too good to play you type deals? Because
Well, Griggs, I think the real answer is that the Pac-12 has already said that they're looking to expand more, and
Yeah.
given that they have enough football teams, I think the Gales could be a prime target.
They've been
does
in talks.
Gonzaga value
Yeah.
this, or is it like a Xavier Dayton situation where Stalika just wants nothing to do with Dayton?
No, I mean, Coach Few and Coach Bennett are friends off the court and have ultimate respect for each other. And as long as they continue to be at the forefront of each program, they're going to try to figure it out on how to keep playing. I think the ideal is St. Mary's ultimately gets the invite and then they keep the prime time. It's the best rivalry in the West Coast in the
It
last
is.
decade.
It really is.
And and it can't even really be argued. So
Yeah. The other
they
thing,
want to keep that going.
yeah, and it's a basketball centric rivalry. I mean,
Right,
there's lots
right.
of good rivalries on the West Coast, but this is these are two basketball centric schools. They don't have football at all. It's just a
Right.
special rivalry.
Absolutely.
Uh, Real quick over to the A10. Titel, St. Louis, now 21st in the nation in the AP poll, 19-1 overall, and really just did what they needed to do this week. Got a little bit of a battle from Duquesne, but they got their 2 wins.
Yes, I can't say that. I mean, they're supposed to beat Duquesne and the Bonnies. They should beat GW at home. They should beat Dayton at home this week.
Arch
But we'll
Baron
see.
Cup.
Amen. Their offense is solid. The defense is even better. 3-point line is where they do their damage. They're top 5 in the nation in both shooting at 40% and defending at 27% allowed. We're getting to a point where they're not a lock at all. Like, there's still a lot of games left. But like, if they win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and are 25-1 when they host VCU in a few weeks, if they beat VCU, like, maybe lock? No, maybe.
Maybe lock. I look at a couple of bad losses still ahead of them, but
Loyola.
it's Griggs. The other story in this conference though this week was George Mason, who had been right there with one loss with them.
Yeah.
They go and they lay an egg at Rhode Island.
They did, and it hurts. And the weaker your schedule is, the more narrow your margin for error is, and their schedule is weak, and their margin for error is small, and they erred. on Saturday. Um,
The school colors are green and gold, but their bed sheets are going to be gold for a different reason.
yeah.
Oh,
Now
oh, oh.
I know Rocco really likes this team, and I like them too. I don't like their profile, and I don't think this is the type of profile that the committee would select. But then again, he's a lot better at guessing the committee than I am.
Yeah,
Do you
Rocco.
think the committee would like this profile,
Yeah,
Rocco?
Rocco, you've got a triple digit Torvik rating. You've got even with the conference schedule, you're still a sub 300 strength of schedule. Those are some bad numbers, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly don't want to land anywhere near the bubble. So preventing the slip ups for a team like this is ultimately the most important thing. But this week they'll have George Washington tomorrow, quality competition, decent net, and then Dayton, who did stumble twice
That's
last
St.
week.
St. Louis. Sure, I talk about. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, are you talking about George Mason?
Oh, I was talking about
Yeah,
George
Mason.
Mason.
Yeah,
Yeah.
George. Yeah, George Mason. I agree with you, Griggs. Would not have them in at this point. Again, another one of those scenarios where all these other games George Mason plays, unless it's VCU, Dayton, St. Louis, or GW, they're pretty much playing elimination games.
Yeah.
And that loss to Rhodey really knocks them to the wrong side. They missed their one big chance with Virginia Tech. Their style of play is a grinded out win style, so they're actually more susceptible to surprise losses, which happened last year as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
They don't
and
they
I
don't
like
have that gear that St. Louis has.
yeah, and I like this team, but like give yourself a wider margin for error. Like play better teams or you got to do better
Yeah.
than that. I mean, you got to do better than the absolute worst out of conference schedule.
you almost start wondering if VCU, who has a lot more losses, may have a better overall profile at the moment, just because they have the Vodtech win, they have the South Florida win.
Yeah.
They have a good strength of schedule.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, and if they can beat St. Louis and do a couple other things, and get to this top two of the league, they'll get a good look, I think.
Uh, Upcoming
VCU
games
plays
this.
George Mason twice, I believe, as well. So that'll be interesting.
They should. They need to protect those old
Uh,
CAA rivalries.
well, they
They,
lost the first time to George Mason. They will get them again,
yeah.
and they will have a road trip to St. Louis ahead still as well.
Yeah.
Upcoming games this week. First of all, St.
Arch
Louis.
Fair and Cup.
There it is.
Yes.
Friday night, only game worth watching. Arch Baron Cup night. Dayton at St. Louis round one.
And I'll
Uh,
be there, Chad. I will be there.
and
Are you
Rocco
gonna
will
really
be there.
Yes. My first time ever. First Arch Fair and
Oh,
Cup.
It's been a while since St. Louis has been favored to win the Arch Baron Cup, though. It's usually Dayton that's dominated this rivalry.
Are you going to have a vote for the player of the game? And what's the name of the trophy again, Salika?
That's the Harewood Horse Trophy.
Are you going to have a vote for
Oh
the
man.
Harewood Horse Trophy, Rocco?
Oh,
I don't know. I need to make some phone calls because I would love to be
yeah.
involved.
Is that website still up? The history of the Arch Bearing Cup. It
No, I
was.
think it's gone.
Oh God,
It's a
it was
tragedy.
so hilarious. Like testimonials from CC DeVille about how he was afraid for his life. It was spectacular.
One
Not
more
to
team
mention famed pilot Sully's, I think it was it
Yeah,
Sullenberger?
yeah.
One more team to quickly mention. Titel, Miami, Ohio, 20-0, now in both polls this week. They cracked the top 25 in the coaches poll as well. Had a test over the week at Kent State, but they found a way to win, and here they are. Best start in school history, I believe.
Mac
Yeah,
history.
they're turning into Troy. They win overtime games and nothing but overtime games. No, I'm just kidding. The last two, but they're also giving up 100 points. Amazingly, they're scoring more than 100 points, which is why they're winning them. But they're playing with fire. They're not beating up on top 100 teams either. They're beating up Buffalo and Kent State barely. They should beat UMass this week. They should destroy Northern Illinois this week. And then when they go to Buffalo on February 3rd, 22-0, like, can you give me a little defense? Can you keep it to double digits at least?
Yeah, I think that's the big week, Rocco. That trip to Buffalo, followed by the trip to Marshall.
Buffalo
they,
kind of spiraling right now.
Yeah, well, Buffalo just got free tag back. He was concussed during the first meeting and missed their loss to Akron. So, with Buffalo back to full strength heading into this week, that does shape up to be a showdown. And you got to remember what happened in the Miami Buffalo game. Buffalo up 10 late in the game, and a barrage of threes, including one at the buzzer by Elmer. sent the game to OT. It was a miracle win for the Redhawks. But from Buffalo's perspective, I mean, nobody's going to have a bigger chip on their shoulder to play this team than Buffalo.
And they needed a late three to be, I mean, I think a three at the buzzer to get Kent to overtime as
Kent
well. So,
overtime. Yeah, yeah.
um, now the question remains, what is the margin for error? We just got done talking about George Mason. Profile wise, very similar here. And the reason I bring this up, with all due respect to Miami, they were my preseason pick to win it all. I liked them back in October. They're not my pick to win it now. At least not the auto bid. I think there's a team in the back that's better than they are. That
And
will
we'll
win
talk
it.
about that team on Wednesday night
We
because now
will.
you've gone under the radar, Griggs.
Yeah, we will. But what I'm asking about Miami is what do they have to do to get inside the bubble in the event that they don't win the auto bid?
Yeah,
I'll
I
take
mean,
that one.
Yeah.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Doug.
Start. No 29-win team has ever missed the NCAA tournament. Miami's 20-0 with 11 regular season games left, which is to say they have two strikes. If they finish 29-2 and then lose in the conference tourney opener to be 29-3, I think they're in. The strength
Okay.
of schedule is atrocious, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And the predictive metrics are way beyond the bubble. But I'm telling you, 29 in my mind is a magic number.
I do think a loss against either Northern Illinois or Western Michigan could be worth two strikes in themselves if that were to happen.
Yeah, Titel, I'd like to see them get to 30 to be there, which may just mean they have to win that conference tournament quarterfinal, which they should win. So,
Yeah.
anyhow,
Anything can
that
happen in Cleveland, Chad. Anything can happen in Cleveland.
that's it for the show. Though, let's go to final thoughts. Titel, I'm going to start with you because I know you need the screen share. Here we go.
So this week I wanted to talk about a little family called the Mays. And Luke and Drake May, pictured here, are Tar Heel alums. And we've seen a lot of famous athletic families, the Mannings in football, the Currys in basketball. But the most amazing part of the athletic legacy started by former Carolina quarterback Mark May is that his sons are dominating different sports. Take you back to 2017, Luke, the oldest son, made the game-winning jumper to beat Kentucky in the Elite Eight, somehow made it to his Business 101 class at 8 a.m. the next day. Unbelievable. And then the following week helped his team win the title over the Zags. 2 months later, his brother Cole, not pictured, won an NCAA championship of his own as a freshman pitcher for Florida. And then in 2022, the youngest brother, Drake, was named ACC Player of the Year as the quarterback. He just led my Patriots to the title win in the AFC at Denver last Sunday. Next month, he becomes the second youngest starting quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl. One of the all-time athletic family legacies we're talking about here.
Impressive.
Fascinating.
Rocco.
Yeah, USC had a road win at Wisconsin, and I think we talked about that on the Wisconsin end, but less on the USC end. I think one of the interesting elements, their roster has been all over the place this year, but Elijah Arenas made his debut against Northwestern in the loss earlier in the week, and then of course played his second game against Wisconsin. Didn't shoot the ball great, but what he is doing, he's obviously showing an incredible display of athleticism. You can go look up the highlight clips if you haven't seen those early on here. But more importantly, the star of the show, Chad Baker Mazzara, is now getting more single coverage. He was double teamed often in their previous matchups. I think USC's now got an element that they didn't have before to really make a move in the league. Obviously, that win at Wisconsin's a great start. They go to Iowa, Griggs' favorite team, coming up in a couple
Yes.
of days. So keep your eye on USC because I think they're just a different team now as long as they keep that group together. Just so athletic, so hard to guard. San Francisco's lost to Gonzaga. RIP. Just one of many examples making their last trip to the kennel. It's been a great long history. Obviously, Gonzaga was storied for the last 3 decades. But even before that, I remember growing up with these great WCC rivalries. It's just kind of odd to know that teams like San Francisco won't be going back to the kennel unless there's a paycheck involved. So I thought that was fascinating to bring up. And then I think also the Butler Bulldogs. We talked about them for a hot second, but again, Finley Bijak. Why am I saying his name wrong? Bizjack, excuse
Finley
me.
Bizjack.
Yeah, Finley Bizjack, he had a hell of a week, 52 points in both wins last week. Michael Ajayi has been playing awesome, which is crazy. He was phenomenal at Pepperdine, couldn't do much for Gonzaga. Now he's a star again for Butler. But I like the way they've played these last couple of weeks. And if they can just keep it going and maybe upset St. John's, they might be on the good side of the bubble sooner than later. So they're the most interesting team in the Big East right now, I would say.
So we'll give shout outs to a couple of teams and games that we didn't go over during the show. Quick shout out to Missouri. Amazing win over Oklahoma, where
Yeah.
Trent Pierce hits a three at the buzzer to send it to overtime, and then Mark
Yes.
Mitchell hits a three at the end of overtime to win the game, down 2 points. So
I mean,
shout out to
just
them.
yeah, one of the more
Absolutely.
amazing wins, at least in terms of drama that you'll see all year.
But
Yeah, good
Stalika,
point.
I'll pull
I
up the
thought
screen
we
share for you.
had, yeah, I thought we had plenty of drama last year when we had Bubba Cunningham as the NCAA selection committee chairman. To follow up on what we were talking about earlier in regards to the Alabama situation, pay close attention to committee member Greg Byrne. He's just the Alabama athletic director who I'm sure is going to be pointing out the Betty Yako situation. One of the main differences this year is at least you have an under the radar person in Keith Gill who's going to be the actual chairman coming from the Sun Belt Conference. Now, the good news as far as Lee Reed goes, at least he won't have to leave the room much because Georgetown is not going to be discussed and not too many Big East teams going to be discussed this year.
Yeah.
Griggs, you want to finish out the show?
My final thought, I'm going to revert back to what our first thought was, and that is I don't want to get specifically into the case at Alabama, but the can of worms, I guess, that could be opened if the courts rule against the NCAA in this. And I guess the question is, what do we want college athletics to be? And even outside the legalities of it, the antitrust part. And one of the things that I always thought of it simply is that it was an opportunity predominantly for traditional college age students that were high school athletes that get that chance. And if we're giving guys fifth, sixth, and seventh years, and we're not, and eligibility is less and less, and guys can go off and play professionally and then come back to college, I think those opportunities are there's fewer of them for the people that it should really be for. Now, again, that's just this puppet's opinion. I really think college athletics would lose something if those opportunities were reduced or went away entirely. And is it are we shifting to a point to where it's becoming more and more mercenary and less about opportunities and relationships with actual individual campuses? I think the answer is undoubtedly yes. Now, maybe most people don't care. Judging by the NCAA tournament ratings last year, most people don't. But for those of us that are close to the game, yeah, I do kind of care, and I kind of don't want to see it go in that direction, selfishly.
Yeah. On that note, though, I do want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll be back Wednesday night with Under the Radar, Sunday night with a bracket rundown, next Monday with another Hoops HT report. On behalf of John Titel, David Griggs, John Salika, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.